He would later say the light didn't just appear, it waited. Not flickering, not random, not like something caught in the wind. It moved, slowly, deliberately, and it stayed just far enough ahead of him to follow. But the strangest part? There was no one there. No flashlight beam, no sound of footsteps, no voice calling out, just a soft, steady glow moving through the darkness of the forest, as if it knew exactly where he needed to go. And if Ethan Carter hadn't followed it that night, they would have been searching for a body. What happened in those woods would stay with him for the rest of his life. But to understand how he ended up following a light that shouldn't have been there, we have to go back to the moment he realized he was completely alone and completely lost. Ethan hadn't planned for anything to go wrong. That was the whole point of the trip. He needed quiet, something simple, predictable, contained. Life had been unraveling. 3 months earlier, he had walked out of a job he had spent nearly a decade building. Burnout, they called it, but to him, it felt more like collapse. Then came the silence. No calls, no direction, no clear next step. So he did what people often do when life becomes too loud. He went looking for silence. The trail was supposed to be easy, a marked loop through a well-known forest preserve, in and out before sunset, just enough time to think, just enough distance to breathe. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. At first it was subtle, a wrong turn that didn't feel wrong, a trail marker he thought he had already passed, a growing sense that the forest was repeating itself. Ethan stopped walking, turned slowly. Everything looked the same. Tall trees, thick underbrush, dimming light. No trail, no markers, no sound except the wind. He pulled out his phone. No signal. Battery 9%. Okay, he muttered under his breath. Just retrace your steps. But when he turned back the way he thought he came, it didn't look familiar anymore. The first wave of panic didn't hit all at once. It crept in, quietly, like the realization that something wasn't quite right, but you couldn't yet explain why. Ethan began walking again, faster this time. "Trail runs in loops," he whispered. "I'll hit it again." But the forest didn't loop. It closed. Branches snagged at his sleeves. The ground sloped in unfamiliar ways. The light above him thinned faster than it should have. He checked his phone again. Battery 3%. Still no signal. Then it died. Just like that. The screen went black. And with it, the last piece of certainty he had. Ethan exhaled slowly, but his chest tightened anyway. Okay, just stay calm. But calm didn't come. Not when the sun dipped lower. Not when shadows stretched longer. Not when the temperature began to drop. He kept moving because stopping felt worse. Because stopping meant admitting something he wasn't ready to say out loud. That he might not find his way out before nightfall. And night in the forest was different. He knew that. He had read enough, seen enough. Disorientation, hypothermia, poor decisions. People didn't always make it through the night. By the time darkness fully settled in, Ethan's pace had slowed. Not because he wanted to stop, but because he could barely see. Every step became uncertain. Every sound felt amplified. A branch snapping somewhere in the distance, the rustle of leaves behind him. Or was it beside him? He turned sharply. Nothing, just darkness. "Hello?" he called out. His voice felt small, swallowed almost immediately by the trees. No answer. Minutes passed, or maybe longer. Time had started to lose its shape. Ethan finally sank down against a tree. His legs trembled. His hands felt numb. For the first time since this started, he let himself think it. "I'm not getting out tonight." The words hung there, heavy, real. And then something else surfaced. Not panic, not fear. Something quieter, something deeper. Ethan lowered his head, closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he whispered a prayer. "I don't know what to do." His voice cracked. I just need help." The forest went still, completely still. And then something shifted, not around him, but ahead. A faint glow. At first, Ethan thought it was his eyes adjusting, a trick of the darkness, a reflection maybe, moonlight catching on something. But there was no moon, and this light moved, slowly, deliberately. About 30 feet ahead of him, just beyond a cluster of trees, a soft glow hovered in the darkness. Not bright, not blinding, just enough to be seen, just enough to draw attention. Ethan pushed himself up from the ground, his legs unsteady. "Hello?" he called out again. No answer. The light shifted, not flickering like a flame, not jerking like a flashlight beam. It glided, smooth, controlled, and then it stopped, as if waiting. Ethan's breath caught. This isn't real," he whispered. But it was, because when he took a step forward, the light moved again. Just a little, still ahead of him, still the same distance away. A cold wave of uncertainty ran through him. Every instinct told him to be careful, to question it, to stay where he was. But another part of him, quieter, deeper, felt something else. Not fear, not danger, direction. He swallowed hard. This is insane. And then he followed it. Step by step, Ethan moved through the forest, eyes locked on the glow ahead. Every time he slowed, the light slowed. Every time he stepped forward, it moved just enough to stay ahead, always guiding, never revealing its source. Minutes passed, or maybe longer. Time still felt broken. But something strange began to happen. The forest changed. Subtly at first. The ground became more even, the brush less dense, the air less suffocating. Ethan noticed it without fully understanding it. This doesn't look the same. He turned briefly, glancing behind him. Darkness, dense, thick, unfamiliar. Then he looked forward again, and the light was still there, waiting. A quiet thought slipped into his mind. Keep going. He didn't know where it came from. He didn't question it. For the first time since getting lost, he felt something he hadn't felt all night. Not certainty, but hope. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the light stopped, completely still. Ethan slowed. Wait. It flickered once, softly, and then it disappeared. Gone. No fading, no movement, just gone. Ethan froze where he stood. His heart pounded in his chest. No, no, no. He rushed forward to where the light had been. Nothing. No source, no object, no explanation. Just darkness and silence. For a moment, panic threatened to surge back. But then, his foot struck something solid, a wooden post. Ethan looked down. His hands trembled as he reached out. Wood, rough, weathered. He ran his fingers along it, heart racing. A signpost. He stepped closer, squinting in the darkness. There, carved into the wood, a trail marker. Faint, but unmistakable. Relief hit him so suddenly it almost knocked the breath out of him. No way. He stumbled around the post, scanning the ground, and then he saw it. A narrow path, barely visible, but real. A trail. The realization settled slowly, almost cautiously. He wasn't deeper in the forest. He wasn't farther lost. He was close. Close to where people could find him. Close to where he should have been hours ago. Ethan turned back instinctively, toward the direction the light had led him from. Darkness. Thick. Endless. No glow, no movement, nothing. His chest tightened, not with fear this time, but with something else. Confusion. Gratitude. A quiet, unspoken question. What was that? The forest offered no answer. Morning came slowly, a pale light filtering through the trees. Ethan hadn't slept. He had stayed near the trail marker, afraid to wander, afraid to lose it again. At some point, exhaustion had taken over his body, but his mind never fully let go. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it again. That light, moving, waiting, guiding. At sunrise, he heard something. Voices. Faint at first, then clearer. "Ethan!" He shot to his feet. "Hey, I'm here!" Branches cracked as two figures pushed through the trees. Search and rescue. One of them, a park ranger, stopped short when he saw Ethan. Relief flashed across his face. "Son, we've been looking for you all night." Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. I got turned around." The ranger nodded, scanning the area. "You're lucky you ended up here." Ethan frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" The ranger gestured behind him. "You were heading the wrong direction, deep into the back country." Ethan's stomach dropped. "That's not where I was going." "No," the ranger said quietly, "but it's where you were headed." A pause. Then Ethan asked the question that had been building all night. Is there another trail nearby? Or someone hiking with a light last night? The ranger shook his head slowly. No one was out here last night. Ethan hesitated. There was something. The ranger studied him. What kind of something? Ethan looked back toward the trees, where the light had been, where it had waited. I don't know. They walked him out of the forest that morning, step by step, back toward the trail he was supposed to be on, back toward the world that suddenly felt different. Ethan didn't say much, not at first. There are some experiences that don't translate easily into words, some moments that feel smaller when you try to explain them. But the ranger spoke once more before they reached the main path. You said you saw something out there. Ethan nodded. A light. The ranger didn't laugh, didn't dismiss it, just looked at him for a moment and said quietly, Sometimes people find what they need out here. That was all. No explanation, no attempt to define it, just acceptance. Weeks later, Ethan would return to that trail, not because he needed answers, but because something inside him had shifted. The weight he had been carrying before the hike, the uncertainty, the silence, the feeling of being lost in his own life. It wasn't gone, but it wasn't the same either. Because now he knew something, not logically, not scientifically, but deeply, that even in the moments where everything feels uncertain, where the path disappears, where darkness settles in and you don't know which way to go, you are not always as alone as you think. Sometimes something unseen moves just ahead of you, guiding, waiting, leading you back when you've gone too far. If this story moved you, take a moment to like, share, and follow Lanes and Lanterns for more stories of unseen guidance and quiet miracles. And tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced a moment where something unexplainable seemed to guide your path?